I will introduce Shama in a second. I think we're ready to start.
Yes.
Yes. So Shama and I are presenting a paper called Zeitgeist, which is a neuromedia artwork on collaborative creative engagement. And I will introduce myself briefly and then let Shama introduce herself. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Oliver Gingrich. I am an artist and a researcher at the National Center for Computer Animation. And I specifically focus on various different fields, including holographic projection, visual sound, and also neuroart. And at the National Center for Computer Animation, I am specializing on presence, which is this idea of this illusion of non-mediation. So to have a mediated experience where technology recedes a bit into the background, becomes secondary. Also on participatory art, I was presenting a paper on this yesterday, actually, and social connectedness, which is now more important than ever, and also creative engagement, which is what I've been working on with Shama. Just want to present three case studies briefly of my neuro art practice that link into the work that we're doing together with Zeitgeist. This is a piece from 2017. My art studio is right next to the Grenfell Tower. And we had an exhibition on literally a week after, I think 2 weeks after the fire happened. And we were not sure if we should do anything. And all of us as local artists decided to present our own work in response to the tragedy and to use art as a means to engage the local community and provide a bit of a home for creative engagement. And in this case, I invited the audience to commemorate. For me, memory is one of the key means to connect and to deal with loss. And so to remember together might be a good way of or an apt way of responding. And we did this with a very subtle piece, so it's just a projection on a canvas, and it's almost hard to see the colors. You really have to concentrate on the ideas to create almost like a light tunnel as a window almost for personal reflection. Another piece that I presented here at EVA London actually 2.5 years ago, that was for the V&A Digital Futures, is Aura, which was also the final case study of my PhD. And this is an introspective piece where I'm focusing on concentration and this idea of focus in our times when we're surrounded by a constant influx of media information. Sometimes it's hard to concentrate on your own mind. And I thought it'd be interesting to create a bit of a mirror, an interface for people to be able to listen to their own thoughts. And that is what Aura does. The piece was also shown at Kinetica, the Gravity Show, and at the British Science Festival last year. And the last piece I want to quickly touch upon is what we can do, which is a projection mapping piece, which I produced, almost commissioned for the Mars and Beyond exhibition, curated by Oskar Kryczewski at the Oxford Tower at South Bank. And here I asked the question what we can do individually and collectively to help the environment. And the idea was to sustain your concentration. So you were invited to look at this planet, and this projection would respond depending on how much you were able to sustain your concentration to think about what you could contribute. And the projection was changing from either being lush and prosperous, depicting our planet Earth, to Mars as the flip side of it if we do not all try to make a difference. So yeah, these are 3 examples, and with that I'll hand over to Shama Rahman.
Hi, everybody. A pleasure to be here presenting to you. So I'm a neuroscientist and an artist. Next slide, please, Oliver. Specifically, I have an interdisciplinary PhD looking at the neurological underpinnings of creativity. So literally the different mental modes that we have to switch into in order to progress to the different stages of creative thinking, and also with different activities, different types of creative activities. I'm multidisciplinary in the sense that you can also see I am an artist, I'm a musician, I'm very interested in the liminal spaces between using digital and analog sources of sound. So you can see there I'm utilizing the pioneering wearable technology called the Mimu gloves. And over there, I'm presenting my album at the South Bank along with dancers and visuals. And this was also done at Kinetica at their 10-year anniversary. I was an actor and still am, and I was the lead of a 24-part drama series. Apparently, it was Southeast Asia's first supernatural detective thriller, so that was a bit of a win. And then you can see me freezing my my toes and my feet in Antarctica, being a sort of a sitarist, but also linking in to sort of improvisational, multi-sensory influences and impulses. And all of this has led me to found as an artistic director something called Jugular Productions, which is an art science creative agency where we're connecting the dots between academic research and lived visceral experience through performance, philosophy, science, you name it. And so we create a lot of science theater and multisensory experiences, including things to do with memory, where we're actually sonifying the brain activity of what, how your brain sounds essentially when it's encoding memories within sleep and recalling it within dreams. One of the sort of other angles that we really delved into was this idea of multisensory. So next slide, please, Oliver. So you can see myself where we were creating a whole new piece of music that would actually influence the way that something would taste, and that's me experiencing that through bone conduction as another form of listening. And on the left, you can see a dancer where we're working with her and visualizing her own brain activity so that she could see how to manipulate her mental state towards more relaxed and or towards more focused spaces. And that actually helped her change the way that she improvised and her creative practice and get into a different flow states. And so with this sort of multisensory angle, I then founded Neurocreate, which is essentially utilizing AI in order to get you into these different mental states. And specifically, now we're reaching our work together, Zeitgeist, where essentially we are looking at the different brain activity signatures underpinning these different creative stages. As you can see, right at the bottom is the creative flow state. And with Neurocreate, we now have proprietary deep learning algorithms that can detect through wearables whether you're in the flow state or not, through your own brain activity. And we're utilizing this classification in order to create our beautiful artwork, utilizing light and the visuals by Oliver in order to show people whether they're in the flow state, but also to encourage them to get into the flow state. The way that we imagine this is that people will engage with each other in various creative activities, whether that's singing or spoken word or drawing or whatever it is. And the more in flow that they get, this will actually be shown through different visual strategies and through different colors. And we can see how engaged that they're with each other. We want to create this as a totem in the middle, which is a glass sort of totem pillar filled with prisms, so that when both and or more than one person is in the flow state, this would actually change the color hue, which would then be shone in and create rainbows through the prisms. But in addition to that, there are also visual strategies that we're going to go through and show you that will be sort of correlating to each individual's flow state as well, and how they kind of interplay with each other. And all of this is underpinned with deep learning AI algorithms that can detect using wearables, using brain sensing wearables, how in flow you are essentially.
Yeah, and so this is a technical diagram of how it's going to work. Shama already described the core of it. So we've got this glass totem here in the center, and the idea is that you are modulating the light source that is being projected onto it, both through a projector but also through ambient lighting around it. And you're essentially wearing a brainwave interface on an EEG headset on your head, which is measuring this and is then being analyzed via Shama's Neurocreate AI deep learning algorithm. And then we're using a touch designer script to use or implement these visual strategies. And this is how it looks under the hood. So it's quite complex. It's a bit of a spaghetti junction, I call it, because we have all of these different parameters that we've got two-dimensional forms. In this case, this is now set up for two people. So we've got two brainwave inputs that are then being translated into two different forms and two different color spectrums that are all responding in real time to your flow state. And that is projected onto this glass prism. We actually collected all of these glass prisms during lockdown. And so the most part of it is really glass that we wanted to keep and repurpose. And I'm hoping that I can show you our premiere. So this was our first prototype, which we premiered at the Ars Electronica Festival.
So I think the sound isn't quite coming through.
Is it not? Oh, okay. So maybe I will just talk over this. I'm sorry, I can hear it here. So basically, Shama is just explaining how she is basically changing the lightscape that is being projected on it. And you can see these kind of different shapes responding to her brainwave activity in real time. So this was her first prototype, and we were quite honored to be able to present it and work on this during lockdown collaboratively, remotely, and then to present it at Ars Electronica. But there's also still quite a lot of work to do. So we did manage to actually map these flow states to colors and to different shapes, and for these shapes to respond in real time. And we did manage to do this over local networks, but we haven't at that point managed to do this remotely just yet, and we're still working on the ambient lighting for the surrounding lights. And we also wanted to create a 3D scape for holographic projection. And so here, just a quick overview of where we are with state-of-the-art programming. So we're thinking of a Möbius strip as a form to modulate, and Möbius strips are fantastic because they are multidimensional, but they also, the inside is literally the outside, which is essentially what we want to do. We want people to be able to visualize what's inside them. So this was one of these forms that really inspired us, and we had this idea of creating these intersecting Möbius strips to show this idea of flow as being a status that you're in together. Here you can see some mood boards, and I am just going to show you very quickly where we are with the programming. So now we translated this into a three-dimensional shape. These ripples are responding to how much in flow you are. The shape and the also the color is also responding to your individual flow state. So the brighter you are, the more you are in flow. And it's a very easy on the eye and quite a flowy, multidimensional sculpture that can actually be projected holographically now. And with that, I'm going to hand back over to Shama to conclude.
Yeah, so this is just a little snapshot of the online virtual exhibition at Ars Electronica, hosted by Art in Flux. So we were really honored to be showing our work in progress there. And then we, I think in the next slide, does it go? Yes, we were also honored to be invited to show at Virtual Burning Man this year in a variation of this called Brainfuck 2020. And this was more like a virtual reality sort of angle within Sparkleverse, which is the virtual playa for this year. Hopefully we'll be back to reality next year. And then we are also going to be showing this at Pool Museum as part of the 30-year celebration of the NCCA. And here is where we're going to be showing it as a physical installation with a holograph. And hopefully people will be able to utilize their own brains at that point, but we shall see. And we are now also taking this idea of how art can then impact within social well-being and cognitive training. So on one instance, we are working with Ravensbourne in order to create an app for digital creative cognitive training for creatives, especially in remote working settings because of COVID. And we're also working with the NHS to look at how to engender more social connectedness through flow, and how this can also result in stress resilience for health workers, who are, again, not really connecting, apart from in very sort of trauma sort of spaces COVID treatment, essentially. And you can see here, greater social connectedness has been linked to a lower risk of many different types of diseases, including heart attacks, cancer, blood pressure, and it also results in better immune responses, better psychological well-being. Specifically, creative thinking and innovation frameworks are a mechanism that underpin flow states, as I was investigating in my own PhD, and has been shown to increase brain blood flow by 8%, which has been directly linked to improved neuronal well-being. So apparently each percent of improvement leads to a decade in reversing your aging. So that should make you roughly before you're born. And then I think that sort of concludes what we have. So we'd just like to thank you again. Over to you, Oliver, and any other questions.
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up really well. I think you can see where we are with the project, where we're still going with it. I think our next step is really to create this online interface as well for people to be able to connect remotely with one another. And yeah, we're really excited about these collaborations with the NHS and also with Ravensbourne in this context.
Yeah, really liking this idea of crossing over from art into sort of more scalable, widely applicable apps. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Audience here. So that was a very interesting presentation. Do we have any questions? I'm looking on chat at the moment. I might throw one out there. I was just wondering, you talk a lot about flow. Is it easy for everybody to attain this state of flow, or do some people find it more difficult? And if so, would you be able to use your tower to train people?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think it's like meditation being also a different mental state. People like anything, you get novice, you get expert. There's things that you learn as a skill. So I think the more training that you get in the flow state, then the easier it will become for you to attain it, and for longer periods of time. And that's precisely what we're trying to do, is through a playful and beautiful experience, try and nudge and encourage people to get into that state. Unlike maybe a lot of brain training apps out there at the moment, might sound a little bit more I don't know, focus driven or game driven, or maybe not as beautiful. This is literally an artistic, aesthetic, stunning experience through which we want to, without even knowing, maybe people will get into flow states quicker and quicker as they take part.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. I don't see any more questions, but I'm sure people, if you want to put them up on chat, you can, or if you have any links that people can go to, if you just pop them up.
Yeah, well, I actually have not a link to the project website, but we do have a link to the online exhibition. And also I wanted to invite you all to come and join us this evening. I know EVA has done a great job in advertising it already, but my colleague Afra Shamsa is curating our Art and Flux talk at National Gallery X this evening. And it's a free event, and we would love to see you there. So Shifting Grounds is specifically focusing on this idea of cultural heritage and what it means in the context of British art history. And it's an incredible lineup of speakers, and Afra Shamsa is also presenting her new Shamsa digital project at the event. So it'd be fantastic if you can make it, and I'll post a link here in the chat.
And also there was one other question. Another example of participatory art, which as we discussed yesterday, can act as a behavioral trigger. Oliver, do you want to?
Another example of artistic, another example of art, which is we discussed yesterday, can act as a behavioral trigger. There are a lot of different examples of participatory art. For very often, specifically in the context of the NHS, there's discussion about sound and specifically humming, and how this can help to make people feel more socially connected. And we also have participated in a study called the Heart Study, together with the Center for Performance Science, trying to measure this and achieve some meaningful results in this context. So sound and music making definitely counts as a participatory art form and is definitely one that is conducive as a behavioral trigger for, but also as a to help with feeling more socially connected with one another.
And I think to add to this again, we're also going into this area of sublime aesthetics. So you know, utilizing visuals and beauty and awe in order to get into these sort of, you know, shifting these different sort of mental states that can lead to different behaviors as well. And so in general, like kind of like crossing that border with border even with art therapy, I suppose. I've also put up my email there, Oliver, if you wanted to. If anybody wants to like contact us, please do. We'd love to take this forward in many different incarnations, obviously, as you can see. And if you have any feedback for us.
Well, thank you very much. And I'd like to say thank you to all our panelists this afternoon for a varied